Hello, everyone, and welcome to Alley Talk. We're starting here just a little delayed here at Philly Sports Network. I am your host for now, as Kyle Fisher will be joining us, but I am Alec Costival, of course, one of the lead Phillies writers for Philly Sports Network, Metro Philly Sports Network. If you haven't been around, welcome. If this is your first show, I've been around a little bit. Been with Philly Sports Network for a minute now, and we're here to talk about the Phillies once again this lovely Friday. It's frigid outside, but there are dreams of spring training on their way. And we can't wait for warmer weather here in Pennsylvania. I'm sure most people are still digging out from the anywhere from 8 to 13 inches of snow and sleet and ice that we all got. And of course, just built upon all the sub freezing temperatures here in Pennsylvania, we're ready to see some baseball. But some people are a little concerned about the Phillies right now. One of the big things at the moment that a lot of people have brought up with the Phillies is the outfield. People are concerned left and right that the Phillies are going to have one of the worst outfield in baseball, one of the bottom five outfields. There's a lot of concerns swirling around the internet about how this is going to be the Achilles heel for this Phillies team, and it's going to cost them a division. It's going to cost them a chance of the World Series. It's going to cost them a chance of being a good baseball team. Well, one of the things we're here to talk to you today about is I think that's a slight overreaction, and I believe Kyle will have the same response to that as well. The Phillies are going in with an outfield that is better than five before the start of the 2025 season. They're not going to have Nick Castellanos on this roster, who has not had any defensive ability to get to a ball. He can catch a ball, he can make a play, but his range has been, let's say, subprime. Now, the Phillies replace him with Adolis Garcia, who has won a Gold Glove in the outfield. He will probably give you a similar offensive production, maybe a little bit more home runs, a little bit more speed, and can cover more ground. Left field, this year, instead of starting in center field for the Phillies, it's going to be Brandon Marsh in left field. And in left field, Brandon Marsh is actually a really good defender. He was a Gold Glove finalist in 2024 for that exact reason. And now he's going to start the season off in left field, being the everyday starter against lefties. Otto Kemp is going to get mixed in, but he's getting moved to a defensive position that actually suits him. And he'll get to play the full season there. Then, of course, in center field, you have a rookie, Justin Crawford, who will be coming up from the minors. He's a consensus top 100 prospect. He has been, but all you ever hear from people is his high ground ball rate, and his lack of defensive ability in center field. How he's more of a corner outfielder, but the Phillies are going to have him out in center field. So why shouldn't you panic about the Phillies outfield? Here's why. Let's start with Brandon Marsh. Brandon Marsh was abysmal to start the season last year. In fact, throughout all of April, he didn't have a hit. He got injured on the 16th of April. Again, had not got a base. His batting average was at 0.95 as he had 4 hits in March. But then he came back on May 3rd and immediately, right away, had a 2-hit game with a double. And by the end of the season, he was able to bring up his batting average to 280 and finished with a 785 OPS. But listen, if you cut out his beginning of the season till he's injured, till he comes back, you're looking at a guy who played in 116 games for the Phillies last year, hitting 303 with a 358 on base percentage and an 836 OPS. He was a good outfielder with good offensive production. He's not going to give you a huge amount of power. Even in that span, it was just 10 home runs, but 25 doubles. Brandon Marsh is actually a good offensive player. He just got lost in the shuffle when he got pushed to center field. And when he's in center field, he is a subprime defender. He is lackluster at best. Now, we move to center field and we're talking about Justin Crawford. Justin Crawford has been excellent in the minor leagues. In Double-A, he hit .333. In Triple-A, he's hit .334. He's been really consistent in the higher minors. He hasn't had a year with an OPS under 800 since his first full season in 2023. He's had an 859 OPS in 2023, an 805, and an 863, which is pretty high for a guy that's usually considered to be a speedster with not much power. But this is a guy that does get doubles and triples. He uses his legs. Could he work his way into 10, 15 home runs too? I wouldn't see why not. I think you're looking at almost another Brandon Marsh with better speed. I honestly think that you're going to see Justin Crawford. He's not going to hit .333 in the major leagues. Like, that's just super unlikely. But could he hit .280? Yeah, why not? Again, this is a guy who stayed on top 100 prospect lists because of his speed and his ability to make contact with the ball. He has a good hit skill. He's just not driving the ball. But with his ability to run the bases, he's going to get base hits. And he's going to be the number 9 hole hitter for the Phillies. He's not going to have much pressure. But if he can hit like .280 for the Phillies, you're looking at a center fielder who is propped up by 2 guys in the corners with plus defensive ability in the corners. Brandon Marsh is a plus defensive player in the corner, and so is Adolis Garcia. Again, Adolis Garcia did back in 2023, and he is the person that people are concerned about. You hear a lot of talk this week about how in the world didn't the Phillies re-sign Harrison Bader? How didn't they re-sign Harrison Bader? He's only making $500,000 extra this year with the Giants, and he's got a 2-year deal. Why couldn't the Phillies do that? And you see the deal, and the knee-jerk reaction is, yeah, why couldn't the Phillies do that? There's not really a reason they couldn't have done that deal. But the Phillies went into the offseason probably keeping in contact with Harrison Bader and his agent. Bader was probably looking for a 3-year deal. And with a 3-year deal, he never found that. But also the Phillies weren't willing to risk going to a 3-year deal. And why would they? Harrison Bader was excellent with the Phillies. He was a great pickup. They didn't give much for him. He was a plus defender in center field, great routes, just a natural center fielder all around. He hit .305 with the Phillies with an 824 OPS. He was great. He's probably one of the best trade deadline acquisitions that the Phillies have had in recent memory. So why would they not give that same deal that the Giants gave him? Well, first off, it's probably because at the time that they wanted to get a deal done, he wasn't ready to sign that deal. He was either looking for more money or more years. Second off, if you look through the numbers, this is a guy that's a career .247 hitter. He's 31 years old. He's going to be turning 32 mid-season. And he went from hitting .258 in Minnesota, which he was already having a good offensive year for him. But you look at his stats from every other year. Let's just go small sample size from 2021 to 2024. 2021 to 2024, he's at an 89 OPS plus. That's 11% below the average major league hitter. He hit .246 at that time, and his on-base percentage, .295. Dude does not get on base. If you're a fan of Moneyball, that's not your guy. He does not get on base. But again, he had a resurgence with the Phillies, so why couldn't he continue that? Well, one of the things people point to a lot is his batting average on balls in play, or BABIP. BABIP is a indicator of luck for the most part in baseball. You know, how many times you putting in play and getting it through the hole, getting blue pits, like just getting balls that should have been got to but are hits anyway. Last year with the Twins, it was a 322 batting average in balls in play. Now, average for batting average in balls in play is around 300. So he was already getting slightly lucky with the Twins. Then he comes to the Phillies and it's a 415 batting average in balls in play. And a lot of people dismiss the whole luck factor or anything like that. But you look at it and sorry, we're trying to get Kyle in here. Anyway, you look at his BABIP. You look at his BABIP, and it worries a lot of people. It really does. And I agree with those people. I saw Harrison Bader play late in the season last year, and I saw a lot of hits that really were weak off the bat, shouldn't be hits. But, you know, he got on first. He got his hits. Again, sorry, we are just trying to get Kyle in here. Sorry about this, folks. We're just trying to get Kyle in. He's gotten a little lost in translation. Be with us momentarily, but until then, we were talking about Harrison Bader, the person who everybody wanted to talk about this week and why the Phillies didn't sign him. We're talking about his BABIP. It was a 415 with the Phillies, and with the eye test, it did match that he was getting lucky. The ball was not coming off the bat like the sharp line drives or anything like that. It just was finding holes, seeing eye singles. He was getting lucky, plain and simple. There's not much else you can say about he was performing above his body weight or fighting above his body weight. And that's why the San Francisco Giants were able to get him for, I believe the deal was $20.5 million. But when the Phillies were ready to go for a new outfielder, Adolis Garcia was out there, cut by the Rangers for $10 million. And they went with a defensive guy to support Justin Crawford. And ladies and gentlemen, here is your man of the hour, your usual Friday host, Kyle Fisher.
Hey, what's going on, people? How we doing out here?
We're doing all right.
Thanks for holding the fort down, Alec. How you doing, man?
Trying to. You know how technology can, especially when logging in through other accounts and trying to find our way around. But I was just talking about Harrison Bader, who I think a lot of Phillies fans and just people in general were surprised that the Phillies weren't in on him at what it was, $20.5 million over 2 years with the San Francisco Giants. So I want to hear your thoughts on Harrison Bader, if the Phillies made the right choice, or even if that choice was on the table at the time.
Yeah, look, I think that with center field being such a hit or miss position when it comes to offense, and this guy just had a career year offensively, I assume that he and his agent and the Phillies front office all sort of overvalued what his contract was going to be. I think that if you got to the point where he signed and the Phillies didn't jump early and got Adolis Garcia, I think there would be a conversation to be had about, man, like why not? Why couldn't you offer $500K more, $1 million more to a guy who clearly loved his time here and wanted to spend more time in Philadelphia? They thought he was going to cost too much. They know that they have this young kid who's going to be a cost controllable asset for a long time in Crawford coming up. It's like, okay, do we jump the market and overspend on a guy who is, before this past season, had a 80 OPS plus over the last 3 years? For those who don't know advanced statistics, it means offensively he was 20% worse than the average major leaguer. Like, that's the kind of offensive production that you're talking about. And for a team that continues to falter offensively come the postseason, look, it's great that he's a leader. It's great that he's amazing defensively. He was also a great guy to interact with as a member of the media. He's a stand-up dude. He's a competitor. He gives you the kind of fire that you want. At the same time, they needed a boost of offense, not necessarily defense. Defense helps, but they need a boost of offense. And this guy was 20% worse than the average major leaguer the 3 seasons prior to going to Minnesota, where he was the only offensive threat outside of Byron Buxton, and Philadelphia, where he was like the 6th guy and nobody was worried about him. You saw his numbers.
You don't think Cody Clemens was an offensive threat?
But look, he can hit the long ball.
20 home runs last year.
Right? He can hit the long ball. But ultimately, I think that you're talking about a guy who, while he shows promise with the bat, I'm a big proponent of, and we've talked about this on the pod in the past, Alec, is when you're unsure how to view a guy because of up and down seasons or injuries or whatever, you start to look at things like 162 game averages on Baseball Reference, or you start to look at like what's the classic saying, look at the back of the baseball card. And the back of Bader's baseball card tells you that he's an average to below average offensive player in the major leagues, and that his glove is the primary reason that he has stayed as a relevant member of the free agent class year after year.
Yeah, I mean, you look at those numbers and nothing pops off the page. I was saying about how even if you go back to like 2021, which was his last good offensive season when he had a 114 OPS plus, if you just go from that to, let's include 2025, when he was statistically fantastic. Even if you include those 2 good offensive seasons, and good being a relative term for a good for a defensive center fielder,
right?
He's still at a 710 plus, hitting 254. Like, he's fine, but he's not a guy that pops off the page. The one thing I was discussing with myself when you first came in was his BABIP when he came in with the Phillies. So you're familiar with batting average and balls in play,
yes,
right?
Sir. Yes, sir.
So batting average and balls in play, luck indicator, basically. Saying like, oh, are balls falling that don't usually fall? Are they finding holes? You're getting seeing eye singles. You know, he was hit. That was a 322 mark with the Twins last year. An average, of course, is around 300. So he was already getting a little bit lucky with the Twins. And he had a decent season before coming to the Phillies. But then 415 was his batting average and balls in play with the Phillies.
Wow.
And I don't know how many games you were at to see him play in person, but there were more than a handful of times I saw balls off the bat that looked, that shouldn't be a hit in any game. Whether it was just a dumb decision by an infielder or just a ball that had a little extra bounce to it. There were just a lot of hits up the third base line that, you know, it's like, wow, got lucky on that one.
It's funny because I traditionally considered BABIP a luck indicator as well. But is there something to be said about when a guy's BABIP is regularly high, right? Like if you, to me, it is partially a luck indicator. You're right. That's kind of why it was developed. But there is an argument to be made that, like, if you consistently have high BABIPs, yes, there's a higher likelihood that you'll return closer to what your true average is. But On the other hand, to me, it shows that when I'm putting the ball in, so for those who don't know, BABIP doesn't count homers at all because it doesn't go in the
Nope.
field of play. So it's only when you swing and the ball is put in the field of play. So your walks don't count, your strikeouts don't count. But to me, the BABIP being high consistently, when you have varied numbers year over year, it very much indicates luck in those particular
So
seasons.
with Bader, I think that is the case because you look at his career BABIP numbers and they're kind of all under 300 for the most part. But I want to mention this while we're talking about BABIP, while we're talking about Phillies outfielders, and we're talking about
there's a reason I wanted to clarify luck versus otherwise. So go ahead. I'll let you take
consistent. Sorry to steal your thunder on this one.
Okay.
But consistently high on BABIP is Brandon Marsh. Brandon Marsh holds a 371 career BABIP. Now, I don't know if you saw the stat or if you saw me send it, but can you guess the two players? And there's only two that he's between in career BABIP leaders.
Tell the people because I've seen it already and it's what I wanted to talk about. So let's go.
Number one on the list, Ty Cobb. Number one all time on BABIP leaders. Ty Cobb, I think it was around.
And no one's saying that guy got lucky.
81, 82, something
That's all
like that.
I'll say.
They say other things, but not lucky.
Right.
Because I do think Ty Cobb's mother killed his father.
I don't know what that has to do with anything, but sure, let's.
Well, I mean, that's not lucky.
Hey, StreamYard, clip this one for us.
Anyway, and number 3 should be Hall of Famer. Obviously not in the Hall of Fame because we're talking about Shoeless Joe Jackson, member of the Black Sox from 1919. And of course, the Black Sox being the White Sox, stained because of the betting scandal of the 1919 World Series. Those are the only two players that Brandon Marsh is between for BABIP is Ty Cobb and Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Yeah, so
the question is
the qualifier to be, I think it's like 1,000 at bats.
I think it's 1,000.
No, he has closer to 2,000, but even if you make it 1,000 at bats, so people who had really hot runs for a short period of time.
Like 3,000. Oh wait, no, I'm looking at.
I had it in front of me yesterday. Apologies to the fans out there.
2,000 plate appearances.
That's what it is. Okay,
2,000 plate appearances.
Yeah, second highest BABIP of all time is Brandon Marsh, stuck right in there between two legends of the game in Cobb and Jackson.
And I'm pretty sure fourth was Rogers Hornsby.
Yeah, you're talking about like the dudes who played games where the left and right field corners were 450 feet away from home plate, right? Like you're talking about cavernous fields.
And the second baseman was playing games after shift in the mines.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get done a long day at the factory. You're 17
you let a ball go by and you're like, gosh, should have had that.
Smoking cigs out on the field with the longest ash hanging off the end you've ever seen. Just
That's why there wasn't any shortstop with a 990 or better fielding percentage, I think, until it was 1970, if I'm not mistaken. Forget his name. I think I can't remember his name. All I remember is he's from the same high school Pete Rose is from because I knew a man that knew both of them. But it took that long for a fielder to have a 990 fielding percentage at shortstop. So back, we're talking in the 10s and 20s. The fielding wasn't quite there to keep up for BABIP purposes.
Right. So, but the point that I'm trying to make is,
yes,
when you take out, like when you're doing it consistently year after year, to me, that means that when you put the ball in play, you're extremely effective, right? You're using the entire field. You just mentioned how many balls are going down the third baseline when Bader's ripping it. Like, same thing with Marsh. You can see when he's locked in at the plate, he's hitting balls opposite way with authority. He's ripping the ball when he pulls it down the right field line. It's line to line, gap to gap. Those are typically the guys who have above average BABIP year after year. You know, you may have somebody with a year or two here and there that really show you. But you're talking about 4 years in a row where this guy is having a high BABIP. And last year you saw what happened. He was able to cut down his strikeouts significantly. That's the reason why MLB Network put him in the top 10 of left fielders this year, is because he has
Number
taken
10.
a step up, and he's entering what has traditionally been considered your prime years. I think that people have seen this sudden rise of young studs right out of the gate, right? Your Julio Rodriguez, your Fernando Tatis, guys who come up at 22, 23 and make an immediate impact. And that's just not how the game of baseball has worked for all of eternity. I mean, it's like you have your outliers like Harper and Machado and Tatis and these guys and Jackson Merrill, but like it's more likely that guys at that age are still figuring out how to deal with travel, let alone how to hit a major league pitcher, right? Like you're still adjusting to life on the road as much as you are life as a big leaguer and life with 92 mile an hour sliders, right? Like it's a different ball game for every individual. So this guy's finally getting to a mature age, having been around some of the best players the Angels and the Phillies have had to offer in their franchises' histories. And he's learning from them alongside Kevin Long. He's improved. And the fact that MLB Network would take a guy who most people would say is probably better suited in a platoon role and not say the Phillies left fielders are the top 10 in baseball. They say, no, I don't care who's with him. This one guy is a top 10 left fielder because of what he does on the defensive end and the improvement he shows on the offensive end, to me, is a thing that a lot of people are ignoring when they talk about the downgrade that the Phillies outfield has taken going into the 2026 season.
Yeah, and I think downgrade is a little bit too much, in my opinion, of a strong thing to say here. Because I think if you're going to compare these rosters, you should be comparing to the start of the 2025 season, not the end.
Right.
So we're talking about no Johan Duran,
right?
No Bader. Like,
no,
this is a
I know
better
that
team
people
than
want
the
to
start
get
of the
mad
2025
at this,
season.
but like, no Otto Kemp at the start of last season. No Sosa having the ability to play the outfield. Not that he's likely to do it based on how little he got to do it last year. But like, you're talking about a significant amount of changes. And let's not forget the kid that's starting in center field. If the Phillies didn't trade for Bader, would have been the starting center fielder for the last 2 months of the season last year. Like, and not only that,
there was talk about it. There was a ton of discussion.
Yeah, the more important thing about that isn't just that he would have been because he was hitting 338. It's that everybody in the Delaware Valley wanted it to happen and were pissed when it didn't. And now those same people, likely influenced by some of the hot take radio here in Philadelphia, we're not going to name names, but you know who you are. Those people are driving that the Phillies didn't do enough. So everybody goes, well, they didn't do enough. What did they do? They called up the young stud that we wanted. That's not enough. Why isn't it enough? Well, because he's not the guy that I liked. That would actually be more like running it back than
he doesn't wear crop tops. Why doesn't he wear crop tops?
He's not wearing neon. What am I going to do? Like, it's exhausting sometimes.
He doesn't have a catchphrase. Why doesn't he have a catchphrase? All the best players have catchphrases.
But it really is, like, it gets frustrating at times, Alec, as you know, as well, like, you know this, but it's the same people who were mad that they didn't call him up at the end of last season are mad that he's the starting center fielder this year. The same people who said they're running it back when it's pointed out that Justin Crawford is a new member of the team and that Otto Kemp was not on the team to start last season, will go, yeah, but we knew those names already.
Yeah.
So what are you actually upset about?
It's so disingenuous of an argument. Like,
exactly.
Johan Duran was not here. Guess what? Mick Abel had a great start to his career with the Phillies, and he translated his gains on his ability to actually get trade value from the Twins. Like, that happened. Like, all the elements of 2025 get you to 2026, but you got to compare opening day to opening day. And I don't even know if we're going to get in the bullpen today, but the bullpen compared to the start of 2025 is so much better, in my opinion. And I do
Way
believe
better.
that Bolin, the guy that they got for Strom, is getting very undervalued. I've been saying this entire time. I love his sinker. I think it's one of the better pitches out of that Phillies bullpen. We're talking about 96-mile-an-hour sinker. We're talking about Chris Sanchez right there. So
I haven't been talking too much about Bolin specifically, but the thing that I've been focused on is, and Alec, Bolin is a big reason why I said this. I just made it more generic because I saw a trend happening. Is all of the guys that they brought in that are cheaper, outside of Keller, although Keller also contributes to this, very low, at least when compared to the start of the Phillies bullpen last season, very low fly ball rates, much higher ground ball rates. Even though the end result of these Phillies bullpens the last 2 seasons during the regular season were very strong numbers, they got snake bitten by the long ball in the postseason from the bullpen 2-3 years in a row now.
It's 3
and you
years.
just reestablished an entire pen of ground ball pitchers. And
even if
funky
if
deliveries,
you want to,
and odd
if you want to
angles.
push it
And
back to 2022 in the 2022 World Series, the final nail in the coffin was the Jose Alvarado home run given up off of is that Alvarez? What's his name? The
Yordan?
DH Yordan Alvarez. Yes. Okay, I actually got the name right. Cool. So even the bullpen problems, you can kind of go back to 2022 and say, well, actually, that's how it ended. Now, it wasn't the only root cause. And remember, the Phillies were huge underdogs going into that 22 World Series. The fact that they won that first game the way they did was amazing. Yeah, it was electric. It's a shame they couldn't finish the deal. And then 2023, a disappointment, but a lot of people pointed at who? Craig Kimbrell in the bullpen.
Right.
And the depth of the bullpen was an issue. And then 2024, Mets were a hot team. I guess you can say that, but there were bullpen issues there too. What was the final nail in the coffin? Was the Estevez grand slam given up?
Right.
So every year you get Matt Strom this past year. That Teoscar home run in game 1 probably changed the tempo of that entire series.
Yeah, man, it's we've talked about how smart and intelligent the Philly sports fan is, but they're also a fickle bunch, right? Like
Yes.
It's what have you done for me right now? It's not even what have you done for me lately, right? It's like again, like Duran, they're
and
losing,
it's not even,
and they do the
it's
Duran
not
entrance,
even,
and everyone loses their minds, right? Like it's
not.
Green can't be the guy that pitches in the 8th. Okay, we added 4 new right-handed options. That's not good enough. Okay, like then get out of here.
It's not even what have you done for me lately, because somebody will repeat the same stats that they put up the year before, or even a little better, but they won't get any recognition for it because it's the same player that's been there, and therefore, it's the running it back trope.
Yeah,
like
dude,
we're talking about someone like Alec Boehm has generated so much heat for no reason, especially the way he finished the season last year. He killed it. Like when he came back from that little injury in September, he was hitting like 350. Like it was crazy. He finished with a 287 batting average. Like, was the power not there last year? The extra base hits? Yeah, and it was a little frustrating. But you know what? He still hit 287. You want to talk about a guy not swinging and missing at anything? It was his least amount of strikeouts in any full season he's had.
Low strikeout rate, sprays the ball all over the place when he's healthy. Yes, that is 2 fingers as one. When he's healthy, is an extra base hit machine. What are we talking about? 60 plus extra base hits every year when this guy's healthy. 90 plus RBIs when this guy is healthy. Sprays the ball all over the field, which is literally what everybody wants from every hitter. And it's but he pouted one time after he made an error. It's like, okay.
I'll tell you.
So did you.
He threw his helmet. So did Chase Utley. You just didn't see it. A lot.
So did Bryce Harper the first couple years he got here. It's actually something that people complained about last year, felt like it was missing from this team, right? Like it's
and Bryce Harper specifically.
It's
the one thing I'm super interested. I know Bohm wasn't even the topic we're talking about. We're still talking about the outfield,
Right. We'll
but
get back to the outfield, but tangent.
but the one thing I'm super interested about 2026 is this is a walk year for Alec Bohm.
Oh yeah.
Do we see a step from Alec Bohm because there's a fire lit under him because he knows, oh, this is going to be the difference of me making, let's say he stays around where he's at, like 10 to 15 million a year to 20 million a year, and making generational wealth kind of money on a at least 3 to 4 year deal kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that his skill set isn't perfectly suited offensively for what the Phillies like where the Phillies need him in the lineup, right? Like they need a middle of the order bat that's right-handed, and he isn't necessarily suited for that, even though I think that when you hit a lot of extra base hits, it doesn't have to be home runs. If you hit a lot of extra base hits, you have a decent average and you have a high average with runners in scoring position, typically you're a middle of the order bat. All right. But people are stuck on he's not hitting home runs, so therefore it's not perfectly suited. But he could go somewhere and be a 2-hitter or a 5-hitter or a 6-hitter and make himself a really good amount of money for a team that's in desperate need of a third baseman.
I'd like to give you a comp
Okay.
for Alec Bohm because I just thought about him like, yeah, he's kind of similar profile. And the numbers are adding up too, and it's kind of crazy. Pablo Sandoval.
Wow. Pablo Sandoval.
Except his like rookie season where he was 25 home runs. Alec Bohm's even gone there. But if you just look at that 2009, let's say, to his first year in Boston, you're looking at a guy that hit 286 with a 789 OPS. Like, he wasn't hitting a ton of home runs either.
Yeah,
Was he hauling more of a wagon even than Alec Bohm? Yeah.
13, 23, 12, 14, 16. These are all outside of the year he hit 12. These are all near full seasons. I mean, he played 141 games and only hit 14 as a member of the Giants in 2013. So as a 26-year-old. So that's actually not a bad pull by you. Not a bad pull, Alec.
Except guess what? Alec Bohm isn't dropping off. Because Alec Bohm is older already than Sandoval was when he signed the contract with Boston.
And he might be slow,
he was
but his body is
he's not Pablo Sandoval slow.
Pablo, right? Like
way better. Way better.
He's in much better
Sandoval's shape. Was round.
No longer a defensive Sorry to speak over that. That was a great line. No, he's improved defensively, not fallen off defensively. He's a much better body that'll age more gracefully than Pablo will. Someone's going to scoop him up just because the potential is still there, despite already being, in his late 20s. It's an obvious thing. I think the one
20 home runs, but
if he gives you 18 and hits 45 doubles, like, are you complaining? No, right?
Wow.
The one thing that could potentially impact Bohm's performance this year, and this is your reaction to this is going to depend where you fall on the does he have it right up here? Does he have his mentals right? That conversation. But one thing that could potentially is if he gets off to a slow start and the Phillies' top prospect in Aiden Miller really shows out and starts to force the Phillies' hand, where like you need to find a place for this guy. If Bohm gets off to another slow start, injury or otherwise, and that's what I wanted to do. We love bringing the people in from the comments. David, when you guys expect Aiden Miller to be called up? Now, I don't expect it to be very quickly, but that could be something that could throw Bohm's game off, even in a walk year, as if Aiden is really forcing the Phillies to make a tough decision. So, David, easy way for me to transition into the topic. Thank you for the setup. I would think that it'll be similar to what they did with Crawford last year. They're going to let him prove that he's doing it over 3-4 months instead of just the first 6 weeks of the year. And if he is hitting like gangbusters like he did last year, then hey, whoever's struggling, you're going to have to either figure it out fast or we're going to make a move here. I think you have two guys, Bowman his last year and Stott with 2 years left, that if they haven't signed up for them long-term yet, it's because you have this guy right behind. So it's going to I think you're starting to look probably the conversation becomes real in June. I don't think you see a move until mid to late, maybe like after the All-Star break to see if there's a big struggle and hey, look, we have a place to put this guy now, whether it's third or second. Then you start having the conversation like, okay, are we going to go trade route or are we going to just push this kid up and see what we got? So I would think July is probably the time if he's performing well, where you would start to see Aiden Miller having a legit shot to crack the roster.
Yeah, July would be your first. I would even say August after trade deadline because you need to make sure that Aiden Miller has runway.
Right.
This is a guy that you've seen at multiple levels, maybe struggle, have a little slow start. He did at high A, he did at double A, but then after a month, he starts hitting.
Yeah.
He adjusts. This is a guy that you don't see often. Like, there aren't minor leaguers that struggle like this and then show, hey, no, I can adjust. I'm ready. So
Yeah,
you need to
I
make
agree.
sure that you have runway for Aiden Miller. So whether that means is Alec Boehm struggling? Is a Bryson Stott struggling? Or maybe you say, hey, Aiden Miller's being so good. We've moved him to third base. Alec Boehm's been good. Let's shop him around at the trade deadline to see if anybody's looking for a third baseman in the American League. Do not trade him to any National League team because God forbid you trade him away and you face him in the playoffs and that's how you die. That's on you.
Yeah, that
But
would
if
be
there's
awful.
an American League team that you can pick up, say, a decent prospect for, and then go ahead and say, Aiden, you're coming up. Third base is yours. You're staying there. Get comfortable. We're going to put you at the 8 hole, right? It's you and Justin Crawford, and those two guys are actually thick as thieves, too. Justin Crawford and Miller. They're good buds. I've talked to both of them in Reading at times.
I was gonna say you and Corey both have reported on those two guys and their relationship extensively. So if
it was
anybody, by the
Aiden
way, anybody who's watching us who isn't familiar, if you aren't familiar, I don't know what the heck you're doing here, but if you aren't familiar, Alec is not only one of our great Phillies writers, but his focus and attention to detail on the minor leagues is not seen everywhere. So if you're looking for a publication that covers Reading thoroughly, between Alec and our guy Corey, you can't go wrong. So make sure you give at Costival on base a follow for the latest and greatest on Reading this year, beyond just his normal excellent Phillies coverage.
Yeah, as I was saying, the first game Aiden Miller was called up to Reading. This was, of course, in 2024, not in 2025. Justin Crawford was already there. Justin Crawford ended up having a 3-hit night, and I asked Justin Crawford after the game, be like, hey, what's it like to kind of be on like the same path as Aiden Miller, and you've kind of been at the same levels at the same times? Be like, and he was so glowingly instant. I asked about Aiden Miller, like being there with the team. Like
That's
he
awesome.
got super happy, super smiley. Like you can tell these guys are buds. Think of it. Let's put it at like the Chase Utley, Jimmy Rollins kind of relationship.
Okay. I like that. Hey, and you throw those two names out there, people should get excited. So.
And we're talking about just like friendship. We're not doing any comps here. I do have a comp then for Justin Crawford that I don't know. It's good, but it's not like, oh, wow. But I do think it's an interesting comp. We'll get there.
Okay.
But once those two guys are called up on the roster consistently, I think they'll play off each other. And I think that's something that you'll see. And that's something you got to have with team. And I think that's something you haven't seen much from this Phillies group recently, is you haven't seen a ton of guys playing off of each other. You know, whether that's last year, there wasn't a ton of the like somebody has a big hit and guys are going nuts in the dugout, because we saw that a ton in 2022, 2023, even 2024. We saw a decent amount of it, but it's felt like something that was toned down and it was a little too businesslike. Now, guess what? The Phillies are bringing in some youth, and I think that's what they need. I think you're getting a little bit too veteran heavy, and sometimes as a veteran, you get settled in and you need that young guy to be knocking at the door behind you to be like, oh, you're already here? So I do think that's going to be an aspect coming up at the season. That's one of the underlying kind of things. It's not one of your stats or anything like that. It's just kind of like what are the vibes like? What are these guys' relationships like? You know, do they actually like being around each other? Because those kind of complementary things can help really build a roster from within.
Yeah, I think that that's something that that people don't think about. It's like, yes, the young player getting called up on a veteran team helps. It helps the young player a lot because he gets to learn from the veterans on how to deal with the ups and downs and the ebbs and flows of an even longer season than the minor league season, and even more travel than the minor league travel. Uh, but on the flip side, that youth should inject some energy and let those guys know, like, hey, we got a young kid who's ready to take somebody's spot, and we all got to step our games up if we want to keep our spots, right? And not that like Bryce Harper should feel someone creeping around the corner, but like, you don't think that he realized that uh that he realized that Juan Soto was coming when he was in Washington? You don't think that he knew that he was on his way? You don't think that he felt like, dude, Trey Turner could come up here and take some spotlight away from me? I better show up and show out, right? Like that that's a real thing that people think, especially when, like, you might not think that, but athletes who are that competitive, their brains are wired differently. Like, they are always aware of who could be coming to take this from me, and how do I make sure that that doesn't happen, right? So when you have elite guys like Bryce on your team, they're going to respond to these young kids coming up. They're going to respond to being it being hinted at that they might not be the elite player they once were. They're going to respond like the uh, the bulletin board material is real, and you can take that. If you have a positive mindset about that, you can take anything and turn it into that. And one thing that you can do is take youth and turn it into motivation as well. The one thing, Alec, that I wanted to make sure we touched on was related to like them calling up young players. Is so there's a couple things in play here. One, not to bang this drum too much, but there a lot of people have said for years this team needs a prospect that they developed and an infusion of youth in this club. And then when it finally gets here, a year after he hit 338 and everybody wanted him, they're saying it's not good enough, right? Like, let's stop kidding ourselves and kicking the can down the road. They're doing what you wanted them to do a couple years ago, but now you're upset about it. You consider it running it back because Otto Kemp's here, but it would not have been running it back if you signed a guy who was over 30 in Harrison Bader. Like, let's stop speaking out of one side of our mouths and then saying something else months later out of the other side. Right? Like,
it's almost a little
ridiculous.
embarrassing. It's a little almost embarrassing because it feels like the Phillies got so close to signing Bo Bichette, and it left such a bad taste in everybody's mouth that all of a sudden these conversations rushed back in. But guess what? The Phillies actually did try to pivot and do something unique and try something different. But guess what? The guy got offered $42 million a year, and the Phillies aren't going to do that.
Right.
Especially on what is going to essentially be a one-year deal.
Exactly. They thought that they had it locked up. They thought they had him on a 7-year deal locked up. And the Mets said, we got this. Don't worry about it. Like, that was and again, that's a guy that nobody knew that carrot was available, let alone, like, that came out of nowhere. That was a surprise.
It wasn't until the Dodgers signed Tucker.
Exactly. It's not for lack of trying. And again, like, one thing I wanted to say earlier, but why are the discourse around, they're just running it back. They won 96 games. They won 96 games. Shouldn't they be mostly running it back?
So, Kyle, let me ask you this.
Mostly be bringing back a 96 win team when nobody won 100 games. It'd be different if they won 96, but there were 400 game winners.
Like, let me phrase it this way.
Baseball.
Let me phrase it to you this way, Kyle.
God.
Would you have rather had the offseason and the team that the Phillies have, or would you rather have the offseason the team that the Mets have? Because the Mets basically did what everybody in Philadelphia wanted the Phillies to do. They rotated out so many guys, and they were significantly worse for most of the offseason. You're talking about losing guys like Alonso and Diaz to free agency, trading away who's the outfielder?
Not Marte. Who was McNeil?
Well,
Or
they traded away
Nimmo
McNeil, but they also
yeah.
traded Nimmo too. They traded away two guys who have been held pivotal roles for them. And then you're saying, oh, well, we're gonna have Marcus Simeon, who's like 34 years old and has not been good the last 2 years. Yeah, we're gonna play him, and we're not really gonna replace the polar bear.
Yeah, we're gonna replace him with a dude who's never played first and
we're replacing our
coming off his
closer
best offensive season, like
with a closer who was good but had his worst year ever with the Yankees.
Yeah, not just his worst season ever, like his worst season ever, and it happened in New York. It's not like it's
it's not like he moved to a small market team. And what's his name? The great changeup.
Devin Williams.
Devin Williams. Thank you. Sometimes I just blank on names. These things happen after you turn
Yankee.
30. Kyle knows this too. I've been a dad
for almost 19 years. My brain doesn't work the same way it used to. It's just just doesn't.
No, we both feel that way. And if you're not that old, you'll understand.
Yeah.
But yeah, would you rather have the roster that the Mets did, and then they sold two of their good prospects to Milwaukee to get? It's happening again.
Freddie
Peralta. Thank you. Who was an all-star pitcher.
This is what happens. Just
they changed out everything, and
their
fans had panic attacks all winter.
Right. And quick note for the people out there. I asked Alec to come on this show like 12 seconds before we walked on. So if names aren't all at the front of mind, it's because he was busy doing something else, and then I got called into a meeting.
No, I'm moving tomorrow. So
that's what he's doing. Yeah, his brain's all over the place. So that's what I'm here for you, buddy. If you have any other brain farts or a little delay, I'll make sure to cover.
Yeah, it's I've been trying my best, but my focus is all over the place, and I full disclosure did not do much prep because I did not have the time.
Again, I mean, you said you were joining right before the show started, and I was like, great, here's what we're talking about. And you're like, I guess I'll get it.
Yes.
So to
I'm always glad to have
always been a solid starter, had his best season of his career this past year.
Yeah, he's always been good. Like he's always been on like the peripheral of, oh, well, yeah, they have him, but they also have Corbin Burns and, not Washburn, but
oh man, who was it? Oh,
what Brandon Woodruff.
Yes, there we go.
Jeez.
We got there.
Oh, it's been a rough one. But like he was always kind of like the third guy, but then he was pulled to the forefront after Corbin Burns leaves in free agency. So
his last 3 years, he finally showed a lot of health too. I mean, there was up and down years. They weren't sure if he was going to stick as a starter. He was pitching a lot out of the bullpen to limit his innings when he was younger. In 2021, he had 27 starts. Next year, he only has 17. But it's been 30 plus for 3 straight years. So that is, I mean, it's a solid move. And this isn't to discount the Mets. I think all the moves that they've made have been strong moves. I think that they're a better team
getting Lou
than
Bob
they were
for
last
center field.
Right. I think they're a better team.
We're talking about Luis Robert, of course.
But I don't think that it necessarily guarantees that they're better, right?
Would have you rather had the offseason that the Mets had or the Phillies had? Is kind of what I'm saying. Like the complete burn down and rebuild in one offseason, or the rebuild the bullpen a little bit and then just add at the margins.
Now, I would say that I would rather the Phillies version be what my team had to do or felt that they had to do, because the other one means that your prior season went so poorly that you had to revamp the entire roster. So I know that I'm not taking it in the little silo that you're trying to phrase it in, but like there's a reason that the Phillies acted one way and the Mets acted another, and it's because one team won 96 friggin' games and the other team didn't make the playoffs, right? You're talking about two different situations. So would I have liked the Phillies to add 2 former closers and a frontline starter and the best second baseman on the roster and make him play
Who's
first
the other
base?
closer the Mets had?
Sure. but Weaver.
Oh, right. I forgot about Weaver. I
A
don't think he's
solid
going to be
arm,
that
right?
great, to be honest.
Fine, but he's a solid addition. I mean, like you get two former closers at the back end of a bullpen that had a bunch of 1-year guys. I'll take that. Right now, I know the end of my bullpen is pretty solid, like it used to be when they had. I mean, they're not even going a full season without having an elite arm at the back of that bullpen. And their biggest problem last year was the bridge to get to Diaz. So when you have two guys, that helps shorten the game for you.
Yeah,
Their
trading
starting
for
pitching
Helsley
problems
and
last year
him
was
being the worst reliever in baseball.
right. The Rogers move was solid. Rogers was really good for them.
Yes, Rogers
And he was really good before that too.
Who did he sign with?
3-year deal with the Blue Jays.
Right,
Blue Jays just keep getting better.
Yeah, they had a good offseason.
Yeah, they're gonna be a fun team to watch.
But that whole AL East is going to be a fun watch. Especially like thinking about the Orioles lineup with Alonso. Think about Boston; they've got some great young talent there, and there's a lot of things to watch in the AL East next year.
Oh yeah, Orioles are going to be good. Rays are always figuring out a way. Yankees are still good. I mean, you got plenty to be excited about with them.
Let's go back to the outfield because
that's what I was about to say. Before we wrap up, I want to make sure we hit that again. Real quick, boom!
Really
breaking news. Athletics agreed to a 7-year, $70 million contract extension with shortstop Jacob Wilson. 23 years old. He finished second in AL Rookie of the Year voting last year after slashing 311, 355, 444. So A's finally paying that second, that next generation of young stars, or continuing the trend.
Does that buy out his first free agent year or first and second?
That I'm not sure about. I'll tweet it out later. I'm not going to waste our time on the pod talking about that guy. But just saw it when I was looking up something else that Pat broke that.
Interesting team to watch next year.
Yeah, I mean Jacob Wilson, Brent Rooker, Soderstrom, Butler, Nick Kurtz, all under contract for at least 5 years. I mean that's a really, really solid foundation.
They got a nice little core.
Players. Yeah,
nice little core for a traveling band of baseball players.
For a bunch of dudes who are going to play in AAA ballparks all year. But
good old Sacramento.
We'll see. We'll see if that even happens. Who the heck knows, right? They might be.
I think they are in Sacramento,
California.
California raisins.
I guess the California grapes. Now that they got all these young kids, they ain't shriveled up yet, Alec.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe they just sat in the sun too long. You never know.
Maybe. Anyway, okay, back to the outfield. You were taking us there.
The outfield.
So I don't want to replicate what the Phillies show did. I don't want to replicate what the Brotherly Glove podcast, make sure you subscribe, did last week, where you compare every position Phillies Mets. But I think it's an important practice to look at like where we stand with our biggest rivals. So let's take a look at like Mets outfield, Braves outfield, Dodgers outfield, Phillies outfield. Where do you think that they would rank? And I don't know all the players. I know the Mets outfield inside and out now that I've talked about them enough. But where do you feel like the Phillies stand with the outfield moves right now?
Who do you have in Atlanta? It's going to be, is it Profar in left then? Center field, I guess, is Harris. And then right field, you have Ronald Acuna, right?
Right. That should be at least. Let me double check what Roto Champ has.
So, I mean, that's a pretty solid outfield there.
And Yastrzemski. They have Yastrzemski, remember. So Harris, Yastrzemski, Acuna, and then Profar may end up being the DH.
Yeah. I mean, that's solid. It's definitely better than what the Phillies have. I mean, any outfield that you have Ronald Acuna in is probably going to be better than the Phillies because we're talking about an MVP type player. Dodgers, we're talking about what? Kyle Tucker, Teoscar Hernandez, and Andy Paz.
Yeah,
and so, I mean that you're going to put him
really flipped it. Well. I'm a big fan of Teoscar, but the Tucker signing obviously flipped that heavily in their direction.
Yeah, and then the Mets are Soto, Lubob, and Tyrone Taylor.
The Mets. Soto, Lubob, and Carson Bengi. I don't know the guy, so apologies in advance for butchering the pronunciation.
Are they starting
a prospect? Going to be a young kid, yeah.
Okay. So honestly, if Lou Bob doesn't bounce back, I would take the Phillies outfield over the Mets outfield.
If you're going player to player, obviously Juan Soto ranks one above everybody else in the
Well,
conversation, and then
yes,
you figure it out
but
there. But like,
he's a rock, and not in a good way defensively.
yes, but he's so good that like there's a thing called the Juan Soto effect where everybody who hits after him it has a career
Ooh,
year. Like it's
this is an interesting comment. I kind of like this.
yeah.
We got
I like this
Johnny
too, and I don't
Fisher.
have a good answer. Also from the Brotherly Glove Pod, make sure you go find it and subscribe. Anyway, Johnny Fisher,
But
my brother, chiming in with something that's I think going to stump me actually. But
this is good. Do a draft of the Phillies, Braves, Mets, and Dodgers outfielders. When do the first Philly get drafted?
okay,
Is the
so I
best
mean, your
outfielder
first
Brandon
three
Marsh?
picks in no order is going to be. I'll do this hand. Is going to be Juan Soto,
Acuna is the
Kyle
first.
Tucker, Ronald Acuna. Like those three guys are
It's
going to be
Acuna,
the
Tucker,
first three picks.
and then Soto, I guess.
Well, yeah, I
If
mean
you're
it's
talking about purely outfielders, you can't play them at DH.
yeah. I'm Juan Soto's so good. I'm willing to accept whatever deficiency he has defensively. Like
Yeah,
I'm putting
but I mean
him.
those
I'm
those
probably
three
putting him
are
two, to be honest with you.
obviously.
But yes, those three are the first three. Then from there, where do you go? Man, that's a good question.
Go with Brandon Marsh after that?
I might go Marsh next. Hold on. I'm not going Yaz. I personally am not going Profar, especially after
What
the
did Harris
suspension.
have last year?
Harris last year, let's see, 20 homers. He hit 249 with a 268 on base and a
Oh,
409 slug. So
I'm taking Marsh
678
over that.
OPS, a lot of strikeouts, little walks.
Yeah, I'm taking Marsh
Uh,
over that.
the Teoscar maybe again a hole
No, I'm
defensively,
taking
but
Marsh over Teoscar.
27 homers, 84 ribbies, 258, 311, 465. I might go Marsh there, and
I think I'm
perfect
Marsh.
tie-in. Thanks for the comment, Johnny. Reason being, a lot of people might not know this, but our staunch researcher and co-host Johnny Fisher over at the Brotherly Glove Podcast. Go give us a follow, like, and subscribe for this great level of research. Anyway, Johnny talked about on our episode that just released today. Instead of going to very specific positions, he likes to see where people fall in the grand scheme of things offensively. And over the last 3 seasons of guys that have played 400 or more games, which Brandon Marsh is one of them, can you guess, not just outfielders, not just left fielders, all offensive players, can you guess where Brandon Marsh ranks in OPS over the last 3 seasons?
Ooh. Well, what does he have like last 3 seasons? Like a 770 OPS?
I don't have it in front of me, but I'm sure that I could find it. But just instinct, take a guess. Where do you think he would fall?
Is this all outfielders or all players?
All players.
Oh boy. You're probably talking about like a 780 OPS. Does it say how many out of how many players there are?
No, but I mean, take the entirety of baseball and guys who have played 400 games over the last 3 seasons.
I'll put him 40th.
He's 30th.
Okay.
Do you know how many?
Slightly
there are
more
than 30 hitters that make the All-Star game every year. And Brandon Marsh, OPS-wise, has the 30th best OPS in all of baseball. Not just outfielders, not just left-handed hitters, not just left fielders. Every single hitter in baseball who has played over the last 400 games, Brandon Marsh, 30th best OPS, sandwiched between Manny Machado and Julio Rodriguez.
Okay. Yeah, 780, 70 OPS those last 3 years.
If I asked you, hey, Alec, would you like Manny Machado on your baseball team? How fast would you say yes?
I would say yes, but do you know how much he's getting paid till from now till okay?
Don't just look at. Would you take Manny Machado on your baseball team?
I would take Manny Machado. Yeah,
how fast would you stumble over yourself to say yes? Right? If I said, Julio Rodriguez. You want him on your baseball team?
Oh, see,
You
yeah, like that
you
would
start
be the one that I'd be
screaming yes
like,
before I finish the
you
sentence.
mean I could get J-Rod in center field?
And yet the clowns on Philadelphia radio will lead you to believe that not only should they have signed Harrison Bader, but it should have been to replace Brandon Marsh and not instead of Adolis Garcia. That's the level of insanity that you have to deal with as a Philadelphia sports fan.
It does
If
get
you
nuts.
take 15 minutes to talk to somebody who likes to inform themselves, like you can do by downloading and subscribing to the Brotherly Glove podcast. Yes, I will continue to plug it while I'm on here. Then you have this information. If you turn your dial 4 notches up from 93.3 WMMR, then you'll get insanity like we should cut the guy who's the 30th best hitter overall in baseball the last 3 seasons. And we're talking about how much of a downgrade the outfield is. They lost a guy who had the best season and best 2 months of his career in a Phillies uniform. You're talking about losing a guy that everybody wanted to ship out because he had attitude problems and didn't hit like he used to. You're talking about those 2 guys not being there anymore. And you're talking about the continued growth of a guy who, without that continued growth manifesting itself already, has the 30th best OPS in all of baseball and a young center fielder that's cost controlled for a long time who hit 330 or better every single level of the bigs. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous how much people are discounting this. Johnny, I think based on that, Brandon Marsh is my 4th pick in the outfield draft between those 4 teams.
Yeah, I'm settling at that point too. I honestly thought maybe a little bit better than he was, but no, those on base numbers are not good at all.
Yep.
So yeah, I
16
do
times
think
last
he's.
year.
Yeah, I do think he's. That's crazy to think of, though.
Yeah,
you're like Ronald Acuna, Kyle Tucker, Juan Soto, and then Brandon Marsh.
Yeah, Brandon Marsh, right? In the same conversation as those guys. Right.
It's the only conversation where that works, but
it's where everybody expected him to be. Was you talk about elite outfielders, you can't start a conversation with Juan Soto without ending it with Brandon Marsh. Clearly, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Obviously, that's a ridiculous way to phrase it, but the point is that this guy's a lot better than people realize he is, and he continues to improve year after year. Yes, last year had his best season, but you saw the growth through it. Like Bader's kind of felt like an anomaly when you looked at it from afar, right? And Marsh's felt like he just continued to build on the things that he's been building on since arriving in Philadelphia.
Yeah. And I think I want to mention with if Justin Crawford's going to be up too. And we were saying about how this is a guy that's hit 332 in 2023, 313 in 2024, 334 in 2025. You're going to have him up the middle as well. Obviously he probably won't hit 333, but I do want to give you the comp that I'm thinking about for Justin Crawford. And so we're talking about a guy from the 2010s. We're going to talk about Austin Jackson.
Ooh, okay. I thought you were going to go D. Gordon.
No, I like the Austin Jackson comp, especially if you look his first few years in the league.
Interesting.
And this is a guy that doesn't have a ton of power either, but guess what? Justin Crawford's going to have a little bit more speed than Austin Jackson ever did. So let's just look at his first 4 seasons in the league, and you're looking at a guy that hit 274, 336 on base, 402 slug. So we're talking about a 738 OPS. But I think Justin Crawford has a chance to be a slight better player than Austin Jackson was, especially, the first few years in the league when he was a full-time player playing every day, center fielder. So that's the kind of guy that I'm kind of the kind of barometer that I'm measuring Justin Crawford against. A guy that can be a good major league center fielder, a guy that can, put the bat on the ball, but isn't going to be a big bopper in your lineup. But we're talking about a guy like Austin Jackson, who led the league in triples his second and third years in the league. So That's kind of what I'm looking Justin Crawford to be.
I think that Jackson had a little bit more pop in the bat. Not that Crawford
Just a
won't
hair.
get there, but like he had, 10, 14 homers early in his career still. That first year it was 4, but then it's 10, 16, 12 the next 3 years. I don't think you're going to see that sort of breakout as far as power is concerned, but I think doubles.
10
That's why I was
not,
thinking
not
D. Gordon, right?
bar.
Like D. Gordon, it took him forever to hit his first home run, let alone like I don't think he's going to be that bad, but like I think you're probably talking somewhere in between two similar guys built on speed and defense first, and then you figure out the offense as you go. But to me, like Crawford doesn't have nearly the strikeout rate that Austin Jackson did. So like you're talking about a guy whose real focus is put the ball in play and let your feet do the rest, and he has elite, if not the best sprint speed in the minor leagues right now. So, how about that? Nice pull by Johnny. Austin Jackson, 10th all time in BABIP, 8 spots behind Brandon Marsh. How about that? That's what we call coming full circle, people.
Yeah, that's right. We got there.
Alex, so ultimately, I think that the crux of my point in today's episode is
your John Crux.
The John Kruk of my point is ultimately that like could moves have been made differently? Sure. We don't know the timing. I think everybody assumed that Harrison Bader was going to get a lot more. I think the team would be a little bit better if he was part of the outfield mix, everything else staying the same. But ultimately, like I try and look at it this way, right? They jumped on Garcia pretty quickly because they knew what his market was and they knew that they wanted a right-handed guy with some pop potential. They went out and addressed it.
Good guy for the clubhouse.
I think
too.
that
good energy guy.
Great energy guy, great clubhouse guy from all things that have been reported. I try and envision it like this, right? If the market for Bader was known up front, I don't think there's a question that they would have signed him instead of Garcia, right? So you'd be in a similar position. You'd be putting Crawford in left field, Marsh in right, Bader in center. But if they waited to this point to make any decision on an outfielder, Garcia's probably gone because he was willing to take a 1-year deal. So he's probably not even around at this point. And there's a chance that you miss on Bader too. People would have been furious if they made no changes and were looking at potentially having Otto Kemp as the everyday right fielder or Nick Castellanos being included in the plans instead of being potentially cut or traded, right? Like you're talking about a drastically different feel if they waited to see Bader's market out instead of jumping on a guy that they knew that they liked, right? And
yeah, they would have had to press the panic button, like actually panic button.
And yes, there is a real conversation to be had about if you were willing to spend $200 million on one guy, then why not be willing to spend that money elsewhere? And of course, you can respond easily with not all of those players added up give you the same level of impact that Bo Bichette would be. That's not the conversation we're having today, although it is a real one. I don't want to discount because there's plenty of really strong media outlets. The guys on 97.5 talk like that regularly. Like they try and have nuanced conversations instead of just hitting the panic button. And there is a conversation to be had about if you were willing to spend that money, why not pivot and spend it somewhere else? But you were willing to spend that money because you were getting Bo freaking Bichette, who's led the American League in hits twice.
We were talking about one-time, like, special case, break glass kind of money for Bo Bichette. It was like, all right, we have a chance to, A, somehow get younger, and B, somehow get better at the same time if we sign this guy. So it was almost like a no-brainer of, like, why not go after him? And okay, he wants $200 million over 7 years. We can make that work. But you know what you can't make work is $42 million for one season. And actually, I think it's $49 million because I think he has a $7 million buyout. Or like if he opts out, I think he gets an additional $7 million. So you're talking about.
And let's put it year by year, right? Like you just said, they weren't going to spend $42 million, but if the average annual, I know it's just under 30, but let's just call it 30, right? Just for the sake of easy math. That 30 was presumably going to replace whatever money was owed to JT. Let's call it, I'm calling it 30, assuming Bichette, which is just under 30 a year
Yeah.
or would have
Yeah.
been
It
plus
would have
whatever
been
you had to
just
pay a
under
catcher, right? So
30.
like, but let's just
But
call it 30 to include the catcher contract for the East. So
yes.
you've replaced that 30, 15 of which was replaced with JT, right? So
Mm-hmm.
in theory, if they wanted to spend 15 more on another bullpen guy or another outfielder or
You
whatever,
would have spent
they
like 7 to 8 on another catcher, like a Caratini who signed pretty
right,
much right
right. So
after
like,
JT did.
but like, so could you spend another 10 to 12 to make up the 30 that you would have spent on Bichette? Sure. But you could also let your stud top prospect outfielder get some run. You could also have cost controllable assets in the bullpen. You could like, I don't think that they're done. I think they're going to sign another starter as a depth piece. I don't think you're talking about
Yes,
the
I
top
think they're
market
going to
like
do
Framber
that too.
Valdez, but they're going to spend that money this year one way or another. It might come at a trade midseason.
Yeah.
Every team trades midseason. Like every team addresses needs because you don't know what those needs are until they show themselves, right?
It's 162 games, the longest in all of professional sports.
Thank you. So yes, there are legit conversations to be had about the money, but ultimately they made the decisions that they felt were best for this team at the time that they made them. And I think that there's a huge overreaction to the outfield. I think that yes, the outfield offensively wasn't incredible as a unit last year, and we got some fun months with Bader. But ultimately, I think you're going to see Crawford have a solid season. I don't think he's going to hit over 300, but he's going to have a solid season
And
at
I'm
the
at
bottom
like
of the lineup.
280.
I think you're going to see Brandon Marsh take another step up. And then if you get lucky with Garcia, great. If you don't, they now have the financial flexibility to help pay a guy to come in at the deadline.
And I do think you could take a look at a guy like you could take a look at a guy like Gabriel Ancones Jr. if he's having a really great season in the minors, and there's power in that bat. If he's translating that into in-game power, maybe if Garcia's not playing well, you give him a little bit of run in the outfield. Obviously, you need a platoon for him against lefties because he cannot hit lefties. And I'm wondering if that's like almost a hey, Edmundo Sosa, remember when we had you play
we
in
tried
the
you
outfield?
out there? Yeah.
Let's do it again, but better.
Please better this time.
Yeah,
he did ride that home run, so that was pretty cool.
He did, but then that was immediately after costing a run. So,
right. Dude, I've never been so uncomfortable as a former, played high school ball, but I prided myself on defense, and the way he robbed that home run all contorted and backwards, I was like, that's awesome, and that was also terrible. That was like,
yes.
That's one of the luckiest catches ever. Not quite the Marlon Bird being blinded and falling down and catching the ball behind his back in Chicago. Not quite that one, but
Was it Harris of the Braves who had that crazy robbed home run in center field when he jumped over the fence, basically?
I think you're right. I'm trying to remember.
That was in June or something.
And that was against the Phillies, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That was in Citizens Bank Park.
Yeah. That was him.
We'll just talk about that, yeah. But yes, the Phillies could be at so much of a worse off spot in the outfield, especially if they had waited around. I really thought a guy like Bader was going to get like a 2-year, $25 million.
I was thinking 2 or 3 years for him because he's still only 30 years old.
And he's going to get a second year out of it for the year that he had with the Phillies. But it's really kind of funny that the market wasn't there, whether it was teams unwilling to spend or they were scared off of Bader's complicated history of not actually being a good major league hitter, which I guess isn't really complicated when you think about it. So
right.
Whether it was A or B, it just came out to the outcome of, oh, well, it was this late in the offseason that he signed, and he signed for less money. Dang, we could have had him. But that's so hindsight is 2020 compared to, hey, we got Adolis Garcia, who's an upgrade defensively, has good pop, decent speed. We're going to give him run as the right fielder. Castellanos has done, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's because it's very feasible that if they decided that Bader was a priority for them behind Schwarber instead of JT right behind Schwarber, if they decided that Bader was a priority for them, they probably would have on paper overpaid to bring him back. And it would have limited the run that you could give to a young top prospect, which is what everybody traditionally has wanted to see. So I think that yes, there's obviously room for improvement when you look at it on paper, but I think this outfield's going to be better than people think it's going to be.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think it's going to wow many, but I do think it has a chance to perform better than expected. And remember, the All Star game is in Philadelphia, so I'm assuming we're going to get at least one Phillies All Star starter that's going to be somewhat of a question mark. Like it's just going to end up being Bryson Stott, but he has a 750 OPS,
Yeah.
or it's going to be Brandon Marsh, and same story. But it's going to be someone is going to get into the All Star game that is going to be like, well, why do we do fan voting? That's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah,
Uh,
that'll be
to
interesting.
watch,
But
half of the starting lineup for the National League team be Philadelphia Phillies.
hey, it happened a couple years ago when the game wasn't in Philadelphia, so no reason to think it can't happen again.
Listen, teams can take over. I remember when the Royals did in 2015, and Omar Infante almost got voted in, and he was so bad, but he was
Yeah,
almost voted in as the All-Star starter at second base because the Royals fans voted so much. So I'm assuming Phillies fans will kind of take over the ballot a bit this year, since again, it's the first All-Star game at the bank.
Phillies fans, sure. Let's go with that.
Hey, watch those fingers. There you
Phillies
go. Better. Better.
All right,
Phillies
Alec.
fans.
Right. Do you have anything else on the outfield or anything about Phillies, Mets, Braves comparisons? Otherwise, I think, man, we've exhausted it. I could yell about other outlets more if you want, but
I'll give one note on Adolis Garcia. I think I might have mentioned this, like the show we did right after he was signed. I think he's going to look a little bit more what he did in 2024 in away games. And that's to say the Globe Life Field for the Texas Rangers is not a hitter-friendly place. And 2025, he was so much pressure on him. He was the only competent hitter in that lineup. So I wouldn't even look at those numbers. But if you look at his away splits, you're talking about a 244 hitter with a 731 OPS. And I think maybe can do a hair better of that at like 250 with like a 300 on base and maybe a 450 slug. You're talking about like 750 OPS. I do think if he does overperform, it's going to be that kind of way with 25 to 30 home runs compared to, oh, wow, this guy is hitting 270 and all of a sudden he gets on base. But I do think there is some hope for Adolis Garcia to have a competent season as a major league hitter, especially on the power side.
Yeah, I think at worst, you're talking about an improved outfield defensively with Garcia, improved right field defensively, and maybe the same production offensively, right? I mean, Nick was
and I think you get
Nick's a great
improved
guy, but he struggled at times,
well.
and I think you're going to have a more consistent defensive outfield across the board, and I think you're going to have again at worst, I think Garcia breaks even with what they got out of right field last season.
Yeah, I think at worst he's a 1.5 player fueled by mostly defense and power, but I think that's fine. But we'll see how it goes. We won't know anything until games start being played. There can be position battles to be won or lost. Who knows if somebody breaks out in spring training? Maybe we have a Gabriel Rincones Jr. Spring training 2.0 from last year when everybody was clamoring about him. So you don't know until you know.
I know one thing though, Alec.
Mm.
One thing's for certain. That you
Taxes.
can keep it locked right here to our channel every single Friday, 2 p.m. for Alley Talk. I know that much.
Oh, yeah. That and taxes.
And taxes, of course. Tax season
taxes.
starting. Yeah.
Do your taxes. You got your W-2 already. You don't got an excuse. You can start.
Yeah. Don't be like me and remember that taxes are due on the deadline every single year. Do them now.
That's wild.
It's easier.
But
yeah, every year my entire life I get to tax day and I go, oh crap, that's today. And then I scramble at that point, again,
it's file for an extension at that point.
Just whatever. I stay up until 3 a.m. and do it then. It's fine.
Ew. Ew. All right,
Yeah, don't be
I
like
got a
me,
bad.
people.
I don't want to talk anymore. That's ew.
Well, then I guess it's time to wrap things up. So,
I think
for
it
all of
is.
our wonderful commenters and all of our viewers out there, we appreciate you guys. Thanks for showing us love all the time. I want to give a special shout out to Alec. Thank you so much for covering in the beginning for us. I know it's a little bit later of a normal start than you guys are used to out there, but appreciate Alex stepping up and covering for us. And we always do our best work when Alex is on the show. So always glad to have Alec. Like I said, Alley Talk every single week here, 2 p.m. We'll let you know on socials that you can find at the bottom at Philadelphia SN if there is any unexpected changes to that schedule. But I will be back. Alec, TBD, he'll be moving, as he mentioned. But I'll be back next week right here on Philly Sports Network's YouTube and on socials, talking all things Phils.
I'm
Right here
moving
on
to the
Alley Talk.
Galapagos to be with the other fanatics.
There you go, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Make
That's
sure
right.
you
I'll be back
bring
as a new member of the Galapagos gang in 3 years.
and just eating fans. That's what we're gonna see. Alec
That's
just
right.
engulfing fans completely like that little
Yes.
lizard.
No one will know where they go. No
Still
evidence.
don't. I've lost many a
Yeah.
friends to the Galapagos gang. I have.
It's a shame, really. We need to get someone looking into that.
I can't believe this isn't a bigger story. Next
Seriously.
week, right here on Alex.
God. Oh, yeah, next week we're breaking down what has the Galapagos gang done in Ashburn Alley and their atrocities committed at Citizens Bank Park.
Can we please get a fake headline somewhere about this? I can't wait. Liam, we're writing it up.
We're breaking the news. Galapagos gang, murderers,
Galapagos
creatures
gang.
of the night,
Kidnapping Philadelphia fans since 2006.
Jeez.
Oh man!
If you ever want to scare your kid, just tell them a tale about the Galapagos gang.
I heard that one of the kids that was kidnapped by the Galapagos gang actually was stuck underneath the stands and eventually evolved into Gritty. So, out of tragedy,
found a secret tunnel
out
all
of
the way
tragedy
to the
is
Wells
birthed.
Fargo Center.
Right, exactly. Is birthed gloriousness that is Gritty. So, all right,
wow.
Alec, I got. I appreciate you. I think it's time to go. We appreciate all the people out there. Make sure you keep it locked in right here on Philly Sports Network. We will talk to you all next week.